When you mention Christmas, it often brings up visions associated with the season. Baby Jesus being cradled in a manger, presents lying under the Christmas tree, and houses covered in blinking lights and decorations. It also conjures up some of the oldest and most well-known tunes in popular culture. Whether coming from carolers traveling from door to door, or tormenting retail workers with endlessly looping music from store PA systems, Christmas music plays a key role in the ambiance of the season. Tonight, on a special episode, we explore the history of Christmas music. Welcome to the Musicscope. Christmas music has become a perennial celebration for the music industry. Since the mid-20th century, it has flooded the airwaves, with Christmas music appearing on radio stations, TV specials, hit singles, and platinum-selling albums. But society wasn't always so inundated with Christmas cheer. In fact, for the first half of Christianity's existence, Christmas was simply not celebrated like it is today. Easter was seen as the dominant celebration, and Christmas was, well, more or less just a Bible story. The first Christmas songs date from about 350 AD and were hymns, which were in line for other religious music at the time. They typically had simple melodies and were written in Latin, the universal language of the day. These songs were used simply to tell the tale of the Nativity, and weren't used for any sort of Christmas holiday. It wasn't until carols followed in the 13th century that Christmas music like we think of them began to appear. Carols were not specific to Christmas, but were a popular form of music that conveyed joy and lightheartedness, and they were sung in the common language, or common vernacular mixed with Latin, as they were not as formal as hymns. Carols existed for many holidays, but by the mid-1500s, carols specifically written for the Christmas holiday were popular enough to be published, and a book called, appropriately enough, Christmas Carols, the first known collection of Christmas songs. Melodies such as God Rest Ye Merry Gentlemen and The First Noel were sung throughout Europe. Although Puritans in England and the New World typically did not recognize the December 25th Christmas holiday, as there is no mention of the date in the Bible, and accordingly, Puritan leadership banned the singing of Christmas carols. Not a super fun bunch. This helped lead to a decline in caroling until the 19th century, when Christmas carols began to appear in collections for children. Popular songs like Hark the Herald Angels Sing and Come All Ye Faithful have origins in the mid-19th century Christmas carol boom. Other songs from this period include Away in a Manger, What Child Is This, and We Three Kings. Often these carols were modeled on older songs and maintained their somber, humble mood. Many songs from this period became popular due to easy-to-remember melodies and vivid storytelling. It's around this time that groups of door-to-door carolers sang these songs throughout the community, and Christmas caroling continued in this fashion into the 20th century. After World War I, war-wearied European and American soldiers looked to Christmas as a comfort, with more people embracing 19th century carols with their families. Christmas carols continued to be religious ballads celebrating the birth of Jesus. As the 20th century grew, and Americans climbed out of the Depression, popular Christmas music blossomed through the radio. Holiday music took a commercial turn, following the format of the hit single. Christmas songs began to include themes for children like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and Santa Claus is Coming to Town. Holiday music in general became less focused on religion, with songs instead focusing on creating a wistful, cozy atmosphere. Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas and The Christmas Song, or Chestnuts Roasting on an Open Fire, exemplify this approach, and neither mention the birth of Jesus at all, despite having Christmas in the title. This trend would continue through the 20th century, with a huge boom in the 50s and 60s when television specials helped drive record sales. Rankin Bass created many TV specials based on secular Christmas songs, such as Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, Santa Claus is Coming to Town, and Frosty the Snowman. Driven by famous celebrity voicings from the likes of Burl Ives and Jimmy Durante, these children's specials appealed to family-friendly holiday programming that also slipped in great marketing for toys and records. In 1965, CBS debuted A Charlie Brown Christmas, which featured several aspects that contrasted greatly with other children's specials at the time. Firstly, the characters were all voiced by actual children instead of voice actors. And instead of a main character that simply saves Christmas from not happening, like Frosty or Rudolph, Charlie Brown is conflicted, searching for the true meaning of the holiday in the wave of commercialism. It features Linus offering a recitation from the Gospel of Luke describing the birth of Jesus, when the religious aspect of Christmas was absent from other specials. Finally, and a very differing approach, the music was written and performed specifically for the show by Vince Guaraldi. Guaraldi was a jazz musician who had scored a minor hit with Cast Your Fate to the Wind, and had caught the attention of the show's producer, Lee Mendelson. As unorthodox as it was to score a children's special with a jazz trio, the soundtrack was a hit and is still a perennial favorite of the season 57 years later. The following year, CBS struck Christmas gold again with the adaptation of Dr. Seuss's How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Directed by Chuck Jones of Looney Tunes fame, the show features 3 songs that help pad out the narration to 30 minutes. Welcome Christmas opens with the words Fahu Fores Dahu Dores, which Jones referred to as Susie in Latin. Trim Up the Tree is a lively song with references to The Who's toys and celebrations, all from the mind of Dr. Seuss. The most lasting song, however, was You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch, which is sung by Thurl Ravenscroft, whose rich bass also voiced Kellogg's Tony the Tiger for 50-some years. Dr. Seuss himself wrote the lyrics, which include memorable, funny lines like, "You have all the tender sweetness of a seasick crocodile," and "I wouldn't touch you with a 39.5-foot pole." Christmas albums have become a necessity for almost any major pop artist. It seems as though every artist releases a Christmas song or album at some point, from the Squirrel Nut Zippers to the Backstreet Boys to Christina Aguilera, Billy Idol, and Snoop Dogg. You know, Christmas in the Doghouse? Some go on to be multi-platinum selling classics, joining the ranks of Mannheim Steamroller Christmas by, Mannheim Steamroller, Merry Christmas by Mariah Carey, and Miracles, the Holiday Album by Kenny G. Nearly 50 multi-platinum Christmas albums highlight the popularity and marketability of Christmas music, with the best-selling ever being Elvis Presley's Christmas album titled Elvis's Christmas Album, having sold over 10 million copies. Most artists are encouraged to take a stab at a Christmas album for the love of the holiday. Well, and the ridiculous amount of money it brings in. Royalties essentially get paid out 3 ways: for writing, for performing, and for production. Many artists receive credit for all 3, and if a song is put into rotation just on holiday radio, it can be very lucrative for the artist, producer, and songwriter. Take Mariah Carey's Christmas With You. She is credited with performing it as well as co-writing and co-producing the song. Now, every time that song is played on the radio, in a mall, on a streaming service, she gets royalties. Now, think about how many times you alone hear that song every single year. In 2021 alone, it is estimated that she received around $12 million in royalties for that song. But before we get too cynical, think about all the Christmas songs you know, and how well you know those melodies. You would be hard-pressed to find a genre that crosses such a wide breadth of demographics. I think it would be fun to track down some of the origins of the most popular Christmas tunes so we can enjoy them that much more when you sing along or hide in the break room. Although strictly speaking, it's not a Christmas song, Jingle Bells is one of the best known and easily sung carols. It dates to 1857 and was written by James Lloyd Pierpont for a Sunday school choir to sing for Thanksgiving. Before automobiles, sleighs were often used in snowy weather to glide on top of the snow instead of carts or wagons, which could get stuck. Sleigh bells were the auditory headlights at the time to alert someone when a horse was coming. Jingle Bells was born in rural Massachusetts, but ended up being the first song in space, with two of the Gemini 6 astronauts smuggling a harmonica and sleigh bells on board and playing a little prank on Mission Control on December 16, 1965. They filed a report of a satellite in polar orbit with a very low trajectory. They said to stand by and that they would try to pick it up. They then produced the harmonica and bells and performed Jingle Bells for the folks back home. White Christmas is one of the biggest selling singles ever, with an estimated 50 million copies sold. Written by Irving Berlin, White Christmas made its debut in the 1942 movie Holiday Inn. Its success came largely from American GIs spending their first Christmas away from home in World War II, but the song was actually written about Christmas in Beverly Hills. The first verse mentions palm trees and Beverly Hills, LA. Bing Crosby omitted the verse in his version, and it went on to become a Yuletide hit. Silver Bells is another song that originated in film. It was written by Jay Livingston and Ray Evans in 1950, inspired by Salvation Army Santa's ringing bells, or a bell that lived on Livingston's desk, depending on who you talk to. The original title was Tinkle Bells, until someone clued them in that tinkle was slang for urination. It was featured in the film The Lemon Drop Kid and sung by Bob Hope and Marilyn Maxwell. The better-known Bing Crosby version was recorded about a month later and became a huge hit. It was such a hit that the studio had Hope and Maxwell reshoot an extended scene for the song. What Child Is This was written by William Chatterson Dix in 1865 while managing an insurance company. He fell gravely ill and nearly died. Dix was bedridden for weeks, and during that time, he read the entire Bible and experienced a spiritual awakening. He wrote several hymns, What Child Is This amongst them. It was published a few years later in the 1871 collection Christmas Carols Old and New. It is not known who had the hymn set to the traditional English ballad Greensleeves, but for nearly 2 centuries, this solemn ballad has become a favorite. O Tannenbaum, or in English, O Christmas Tree, is based on a traditional German melody from the 1500s that really had little to do with Christmas. It had a lot to do with consistent faith and devotion. The English version appeared somewhere in the 19th century with a loose translation of German lyrics. Tannenbaum in German means a fir tree. It wasn't until the English translation that it was associated with Christmas. Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas was written for the film Meet Me in St. Louis, starring Judy Garland. The scene it appears in features Garland's character singing to comfort her little sister on Christmas Eve, after their father decides to take a job in New York, where the family will soon have to relocate. Garland felt that the lyrics were too depressing, especially since they were being sung to a little girl in the film. She requested that some of the lines be rewritten, and the song appeared as we know it. In the late 1950s, Frank Sinatra recorded his version, but requested further revisions, allegedly telling writer Hugh Martin, "The name of my album is A Jolly Christmas. Do you think you could jolly up that line for me?" He was referring to the line, "Until then, we'll have to muddle through somehow." It was later changed to "Hang a Shining Star Upon the Highest Bough." Judy Garland would later re-record the song with this changed lyric. The Christmas song, which opens with the famous line, "Chestnuts roasting on an open fire," was written in the middle of a heat wave in July 1945. Robert Wells and Mel Torme, who were both Jewish, were attempting to stay cool by thinking cool, according to Torme. Although Mel Torme would go on to do a rendition, Nat King Cole was the first person to record the song, The version that is the most famous is actually the fourth version that Cole recorded, released in 1961. Brenda Lee was just 13 years old when she recorded Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree. It was written by Christmas hit maker Johnny Marks, who also had written Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and A Holly Jolly Christmas. Brenda Lee was unsure why Marks thought the song would be a hit with such a young person singing it, but his instincts were right. It is the fourth best-selling Christmas single of all time, with 25 million copies sold. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer started life as a book for Montgomery Ward's Christmas sales in 1939. It was written by Robert May, who was inspired by a dense fog that had surrounded his office while writing the book. 10 years later, May's brother-in-law, Johnny Marks, decided to adapt it into a song. Gene Autry recorded it that same year, and it was a big hit. The popularity of the song with kids inspired Chuck Berry to record Run Rudolph Run in 1959, and Rankin Bass to create a television special using the story in 1964. Rudolph has become an evergreen staple in children's Christmas stories since. Silent Night was written in Austria in 1818 by Franz Gruber, who set the music to lyrics by Joseph Moore. Gruber was a schoolmaster and a church organist who was requested by Moore to compose a melody for his words. An organ builder who was servicing the church's organ heard the song and introduced it to two separate traveling choirs. They helped spread the song's popularity throughout Germany and other parts of Europe. A few decades later, John Young translated the lyrics from German to English, and it is his version that is most frequently used today. On Christmas Day, 1914, in the midst of World War I, spontaneous truces were called for by English and German soldiers throughout the Western Front. Soldiers from both sides emerged from their trenches and met their adversaries face to face. They played soccer and sang Christmas carols. Among them was Silent Night, which both sides took turns singing their native version of the tune. The next day, they went back to making war on each other. But for that brief moment, both sides united in the spirit of glory to God in the highest, goodwill towards men. I hope you've enjoyed this special Christmas episode of the Musicscope. I want to take a moment and thank you for listening and exploring the world of music with me for our inaugural season. I'll be back with more explorations into the roots of music in Season 2, where we delve into the history of America's most musical cities and their unique contributions and flavors to the stew known as rock and roll. Until then, I'm Mike Grubb. Thanks for listening. And whatever holiday you're celebrating, I hope it's full of love and music.